Greetings, everyone. I think I am off mute. Yes, I am. Greetings, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us this afternoon on this Sunday afternoon. We definitely appreciate your time. I am Stephanie Steele Nelson, the president of the Miami Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and on behalf of over 350 outstanding college-educated women of the Miami-Dade County community, I am here to bring you greetings. As some of you may know, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded January 13, 1913 by 22 courageous, dynamic, and game-changing women on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is an organization of college-educated women committed to the constructive development of its members and to public service, with a primary focus on the Black community. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority is a private, not-for-profit organization whose purpose is to provide assistance and support through established programs in local communities and throughout the world. The Miami Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority has been doing just that for 80 years in the Miami-Dade community. This teen education forum is just another way we are serving our community. It is so important that we exercise our right to vote now more than ever. It is also just as important that you understand your voting rights and your civil responsibilities. We hope that this forum answers many of your questions or address some of your concerns as it relates to voting. Teens, we are here to provide as much information as we possibly can to help you navigate this world of voting. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. I pray that we are able to exceed your expectations. But before I turn it back over to the organizers of this great event, I must say thanks so much to the When We All Vote organization and the League of Women Voters. So again, on behalf of the Social Action Committee of the Miami Alumnae Chapter and all of the members, greetings and enjoy the program. And before I actually turn it over, I'm going to launch a quick poll just so we can see who's all on today. So we want to know your status. So if you can click the poll that should show on your screen right now. There is a poll and the question just asks, are you registered to vote? We just need to know your status. And that's yes, no, or you're just too young to vote. I know we have over 40 people, so I'm looking. All right, that's great, that's great. We have 40% of us that are registered to vote. 48% of us are too young to vote. That's fine. That 13%, we need to find out who you are so we can make sure that this committee and the Miami Alumnae Chapter do everything we can to assist you or your family members with becoming registered voters. So we definitely want to find a way to make sure we can tap into that 13% that stated that you were not registered to vote. Thank you so much for doing the poll. We definitely appreciate that. Next up, I am going to cover the agenda. We've already had the introduction or the greeting, which I brought to you, and hopefully you are welcome and feeling welcome to this event and ready for the exciting information that we're going to share. Again, the purpose of this event is to just tap into vote. We want to make sure that our young teens are able to hear and ask questions and get the information that they need. Then we will have a discussion or presentation titled Civic Engagement, Your Right and Your Responsibility by Miss Shaquela Holmes, and then Voting Fact or Fiction Activity by Miss Natalie Harris, who is our event co-chair, and then Plan Your Vote by Miss Morgan Anderson and Miss Marisol Tonino. Hopefully I did not mess that up. And then time to tap in, get registered, complete surveys in the prize wheel. So you want to make sure that you stay for all of that. And again, thank you so much to the National Council of Negro Women, the League of Women Voters. And I know that this presentation was also on the When We All Vote website. So we definitely want to thank them for that promotion as well. So next up, I am going to get ready to introduce you to our dynamic speaker, Ms. Shaquela Holmes. Holmes. She is a public school teacher and an advocate for youth, human rights, and education. Prior to teaching, she has 10 years of experience working in municipal government with elected and appointed officials. This is Ms. Holmes' fourth year teaching, writing through civics to seventh grade students, and she sponsors the Law Studies Club at her school. Ms. Holmes is a contributor to the Defenders of Democracy and Human Rights Project. This is a partnership between the American Federation of Teachers and the Robert F. Kennedy Foundation, where teachers from both organizations collaborated to create easy to use lessons that help to connect the lives and examples of historic figures with advocacy by defenders today. The lessons feature group classroom projects where students identify and profile human rights, defenders, and democracy advocates in their own community. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see that today. I know we have been able to show that video before, so hopefully we'll get a chance to do that. So without further ado, I turn the program over to Ms. Shaquela Holmes.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shaquela Holmes. Today we're going to discuss civic engagement. So I'll go ahead and let the presentation start, and then we'll go through it. So youth civic engagement. We're going to move on to the next slide. All right, just give us one moment. Okay, so what is civic engagement? Civic engagement is working to make a difference in the civic life of one's community. It also involves developing a combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. These activities enrich the lives of youths and are socially beneficial to the community. What does civic engagement consist of? Civic engagement includes both paid and unpaid forms of political activism, environmentalism, and community and national service. Why should you participate in civic engagement? So the first and one of the most important things, you all, is to serve the community you live in, right? You are the ones who live there. It is your community. So it's best that you're the ones who serve it because you understand the needs. Next, you can become better informed about current events, right? It's great for you to know what's going on in your community, what's going on in the world around you to see how you can help make a change. Next, break the status quo. Young leaders can bring fresh ideas, right? We look at the world from one generation youth may look at the world from a different standpoint. So if you can step up and bring your ideas, decisions can be made, policy can be changed that's beneficial to young people. The next thing, youth will be for youth. You can be great leaders and decision makers. Who can better understand you than another young person? So whether you're standing up bringing your ideas, or if you're 18 or old enough to run for a specific office, why not go ahead and become a decision maker in your community? How can young people get involved? Educate yourselves about the candidates and issues. It's in the newspapers, online. Candidates have websites, or there are different organizations who have websites, and make sure you find ones with reliable information and research the issues. Know what's going on, know who's running for office, right? You can also talk to the 18-year-olds and older folks in your life, right? You may not be old enough to vote. However, you're not too young to become educated, and you can help speak to them and encourage them to go vote and to be knowledgeable about what's on the ballot and what's going on in your community. The next thing, get your opinions out there to help motivate others. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, cell phones. You can text message however you feel. Once you become informed on the issue and you feel some type of way, when you put that information out there, you may can help motivate someone else who may not have had any idea of the issues at hand or anything about that candidate. So you can help to motivate others to become involved, period. Some people don't know, so they just don't become involved, right? But if you motivate others, you never know what difference you can make. It can be 2 people, 5 people, but it will make the world of difference. The next, volunteer or intern for a political campaign. You can help to fundraise. As you see below, I have. You can hand out flyers, work on election day, make phone calls. It's tons of things that you can do, whether you're volunteering or serving on an intern role on a political campaign. Next, you can help get people registered to vote and get them to the polls. Again, it's very crucial. Many people don't turn out on election day because they can't get to the polls, or they don't understand, or don't even know how to get registered to vote. But again, you can become educated and figure out how to register people to vote. You can partner with the elections department to set up an event and get people registered to vote. You may be too young to vote, but you're not too young to get involved. Next, take politically oriented classes at school, right? You can take political science, or just see whatever it is, whatever courses may be offered at your school, so that you can learn more about what politics are all about. Not only you will get to know what politics are about, you will build your critical thinking skills, your communication skills, your once you can build, team building skills, right? So you will get more than one benefit from taking political oriented classes. Again, as I stated earlier, you can fundraise for a campaign or an organization, right? Political campaigns may be for a specific person, or it may be an organization that's helping to push a certain cause. You can do a bake sale, car wash. There's tons of things that you guys can do that can help raise money to help people carry out their campaign to get the message out to the voters. Lastly, but not least, swag, right? You can wear Go Vote t-shirts or support your candidate t-shirts. You can get bumper stickers, give it to your parents, your neighbors, your aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever. Ask for a yard sign, put it in your yard, see if your neighbors will want one. So again, there is tons of things that you guys can do to get involved at this point in time. You may not be able to vote, but you definitely can get involved. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Natalie Harris, and I would like to thank Sister Shaquilia Holmes for that wonderful presentation on how you can get engaged and how you can also have your voice heard, although you might not be old enough to vote. So now we are getting ready for our voting fact or fiction. Some of you stated that you were not old enough to vote. So after this presentation or these questions, you might find that you actually might be eligible to register to vote. So hopefully you are going to learn a lot of information, and this will excite you about getting involved in the voting process. So we have our voting of fact or fiction questions ready. All right, fact or fiction. Election day is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. Is that fact or fiction? I see the votes coming in. No cheating on your cell phones. Go ahead and answer to the best of your ability. Oh, we have some missing votes out there. Give you a couple of seconds to get it in. Election day is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. At 85%. Okay, we almost have everyone voting. A couple of more seconds to get it in. Missing a couple of votes. Okay. 93% of you got that correct. Yes, and the United States Election Day is the annual day set by law for the general elections, and it is set as the Tuesday after the first Monday in the month of November, equaling the first Tuesday after November 1st. That would in fact be November 3rd this year. 93% of you got that correct. Our next question. Fact or fiction? The presidential election is determined by who gets the most votes, the popular vote. Okay, we have the questions coming in. Remember, no cell phones. We want to know what you know. Yeah, a little bit over 80% of our participants voting. You still have a couple of seconds to get your vote in. We have a couple of seconds. Fiction. In the other US elections, candidates are elected directly by popular vote, but the president and vice president are not elected directly by citizens. Instead, they're chosen by electors through a process called the Electoral College. 77% of you got that correct. Next question. In Florida, you can register to vote at 16 years old. Fact or fiction? Let's see what you know. Oh, let's see, this is a good one. We have about 80% of our participants who voted. You have a couple of seconds to get your vote in. Remember, try not to use that cell phone. We want to know what you know. Fact or fiction? In Florida, you can register to vote at 16 years old. This is fact. You must be at least 18 years old to vote. However, you may pre-register to vote if you are 16 years old. So if you're a 16-year-old student on today, you may pre-register to vote. Next question. Voting by mail is not safe. Fact or fiction? Voting by mail is not safe. Fact or fiction? We have our votes coming in a little faster on this one, okay? Have a couple more seconds to get your vote in. We have about 86% who voted. Fact or fiction? Voting by mail is not safe. Fiction. Voting by mail is a secure system that provides you with more time and flexibility to cast your ballot in case you cannot make it to the polls on election day. There is no evidence of an increase in voter fraud with vote by mail. In fact, the military has been using vote by mail since the Civil War. Okay, we are ready for our next question. We're doing pretty well. We have some educated participants here today.
For Harris, that was the last question. Do you want to ask them and let them show with their reactions?
Okay, well, you know what? That was the last one. For the sake of time, we will move on. If we have time, we do have 2 additional questions that we can give to the participants. So thank you so much for participating. And we are going to move along with our event. So I have the honor of introducing our next presenters who today will educate you about the voting process. We have Mrs. Morgan Anderson, who proudly serves as the membership chair for the League of Women Voters of Miami-Dade County. She's been a member of the League of Women Voters since 2018 and enjoys educating and empowering people to make a difference in their community. We also have Mrs. Marisol Zenito. Please forgive me if I mispronounced your name, and I know that you will correct us. She has over 20 years experience appraising properties in Miami-Dade County as a state general appraiser. The past 5 years have been spent working with the Miami-Dade County Office of the Property Appraiser. As a graduate of Miami-Dade College, she continued her passion for public service and graduated from Florida International University in 2017 with a master's degree in public administration. She's the past chair of the Miami-Dade County Commission on Human Rights and was honored with the Direct Champion Award by the Miami-Dade County Hispanic Affairs Advisory Board and Nonpartisan Advocate of the Year by Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Marisol became the League of Women Voters of Miami-Dade president in June 2018. Marisol is a proud mother of 2 children of 2 sons, Thomas and Scott. I welcome you, and I know that you all will learn a wealth of information from these ladies, and we are so delighted to have you presenting with us. I present to you Mrs. Morgan Anderson and Mrs. Marisol Zenitio.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Madeline. My name is Morgan Anderson, and I'm so excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Marisol Centeno. You are close enough. And I, too, am really happy to be here participating with these young voters. This is so exciting. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to share my screen. Okay, here we go. Other panelists, let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. It's the Decode the Ballot. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So our other presenters, they have giving you so much great information about civic engagement, why it's important to vote, debunking some fact or fiction. And so today, Marisol and I are going to be speaking to you about what is going to be on your ballot, because the first step is registering to vote. The second step is getting out there and voting, whether by mail or in person. And so Marisol and I are going to be speaking about when you get there or when you get your ballot, what's going to be on it, because surprise, it's not just the president, which is something that at your age I didn't know. So, and honestly didn't know for a while until I started really voting in every election. So first, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters. So our organization was established in 1920 when the 19th Amendment was passed by Congress. And the 19th Amendment, it says that your right to vote cannot be abridged on the basis of your gender. So this really allowed white women to vote, but what we know is so unfortunate is that people of color did not have their right to vote protected until the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. So the League of Women Voters came about after the 19th Amendment to really educate people about, similar to what we're doing now, how to register to vote and how to be informed about what's going to be on your ballot. We've been accepting men as members since 1974, so the League of Women Voters is an inclusive organization for all genders. And so our purpose is that we research, we educate, and we advocate. We serve the voters and we promote good government. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit political organization, so we talk about politics all the time, but you will not see us supporting any particular candidate or political party. So we're nonpartisan. We don't side with any particular party or person. So these are some important dates that you will need to know for the election this season. November 3rd is the general election. I think that was one of the questions that Madeline did during the Fact or Fiction. So yes, the general election is on November 3rd. So if you haven't voted by then, you need to go that day. There's some other important dates that we have. The first one that's coming up is actually October 5th. So this is the last day to register to vote, or if you're already registered, but maybe you've moved, or you want to update your signature, you want to update anything that's on your voter registration information, October 5th is going to be the last day for you to do that. Later in the month, October 24th, that's the last day that you can request a vote by mail ballot. And then October 19th through November 1st, if you live in Miami-Dade County, those are the days when you can do early voting. And early voting is super cool because you can vote at any early voting site. So when it's November 3rd, you can only vote at one place, and that is your assigned polling location. Probably it's close to like where you live or where you're registered, the address where you're registered to vote. So it should be like pretty quick for you to get there. But what's cool about early voting is you can go to any site. So that means you can go to a site that's by your school or a site that's by where your friend lives or where another family member lives, and you can all go together and you can vote at the same place. So that's what's really cool about early voting. And then on November 3rd, that's election day. And if you're doing a mail-in ballot, definitely you should mail your mail-in ballot before November 3rd, just to give the U.S. Postal Service some time to get your ballot in. And what I've heard recently is that if you're doing a mail-in ballot, you really should try to mail it like 10 days before the election, at least. And what's great about Miami is that you don't have to provide your own postage. You don't have to get stamps or anything like that. If you've requested a mail-in ballot, you should just be able to take it out, fill it out, and send it back in. You don't need any postage or anything like that. So let's see. Yep, this is still me. Okay. Just gonna keep talking. So I wanted to show you the voter registration form because I know forms can be, I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience, forms can be like really intimidating. Like, oh my God, am I filling this out right? So I just wanted to show you like what the form looks like. So what you can do if you're a first-time voter or you're registering to vote for the first time in the state of Florida is you go to this website at the top of the screen, registertovoteflorida.gov. And you can register to vote fully online. I believe even if you are coming from out of state or if this is your first time voting, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can complete the whole process online as long as you have either your Florida driver's license or if you know the last 4 digits of your social security number. Ooh, something's popping up in the chat. Are they saying, no, Morgan, you're wrong? Nope, just saying, feel free to submit your questions. Yeah, please submit any questions that you have. Okay, so yeah, so what you have to do is if you're filling the form out online, it goes step by step and it's gonna like direct you on what information to put in. But if you're filling out the paper form, this is what you'll see. And you just need to make sure that you fill out lines 1 through 7 and then sign it at the bottom, which is line 12. You have to sign it and you have to date it. And you want to be really careful with your signature. Now you sign it, because I know me, sometimes when people ask me to sign stuff, I just like, you know, it looks terrible. I'm just trying to sign it as quickly as possible. But what's so important about the signature on your voter registration form is that this is the signature that they are going to be checking it against, especially if you do your mail-in ballot. And, you know, we would love to believe that elections are just, you know, run smoothly and are always fair, but we know sometimes there are issues. And so if you're, when you go to vote or when you turn in your mail-in ballot, your signature looks super different from the one that's on your voter registration form, that could be an issue for you. And we don't want to run any risk of your vote not getting counted for any reason. So that's why I always advise people when they're registering to vote, just make sure you sign your name in like the regular way that you typically sign your name. So yeah, when you register to vote, you'll either need a Florida driver's license number, or if you don't have a driver's license, that's okay. Instead, you'll just enter the last 4 digits of your social security number. And then if for some reason, oh, I know this is terrible, but I made this late last night. If you are having to mail in your voter registration form, this is how you do it. You just fill it out, just fill out the form, You just fill out the form just like this, lines 1 through 7, and then 12, the signature and the date, and then you put it in an envelope and you mail it to this address, Miami-Dade Supervisor of Elections. And you can take a picture of this, or I can send out this information later. It's also on the website when you go to register to vote. P.O. Box 521550, Miami, Florida. And then I don't think you need to include the phone number on the envelope. That's just something they put on the website. But anyways, and then for this, when you're mailing in your voter registration form, if you decide to do that, for that, you will need a stamp. But for the actual mail-in ballot, you don't. So there's 3 ways that you can vote. You can vote by mail, which we've already talked about. It's super safe. You can track your ballot. It's really easy because they just deliver your ballot to your door. So that's super convenient. You can do early voting, and as I said, that's going to be October 19th through November 1st. And then, of course, you can vote on election day at your assigned polling location, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And what's super important is that sometimes on election day, the lines can get long. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, it is your right that if you're in line, if you show up to vote by 7 p.m., they have to allow you to vote, even if you're standing in line until 8:30 p.m., which hopefully you're not. But if you're standing in line at 8:30, if you were in line at 7, they have to let you vote. So always just make sure and know your rights on that. All right, and with that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to pass it over to Marisol, and she's going to educate you about, once you've gone through this entire process and you get your ballot, what is going to be on it.
Yes, thank you, Morgan, for that amazing presentation and so much information for everybody. But it's very, very good to remember that information and to register to vote and then vote safely in every election. And right now we have the November 3rd. So like Morgan said, what's going to be on the ballot? So we're going to get to pick a U.S. president and a vice president. And then we have locally a whole lot of things that we need to vote on. We're going to pick a Miami-Dade County mayor. We're going to pick commissioners for several districts, the school board personnel. We're going to pick the clerk of courts. We're going to pick state senators and representatives and U.S. representatives. And 6, we're going to also have 6 constitutional amendments and 3 Miami-Dade County charter amendments. Along with that, if you live in a municipality, be it Miami Gardens, Hialeah, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, etc., Miami Beach, I know, has some more things on their ballot. But everybody will have these according to where they live. Thank you, Morgan.
You're so welcome. All right, so now what I'm going to talk about is something that Marisol just mentioned, which is our constitutional amendments in Florida. So you know that the United States has a constitution, which is where we get like our right to free speech, our right to assemble. That's where we get, the right to vote. That's in our U.S. Constitution. So just like the U.S. Constitution, the state of Florida also has a constitution to say what our rights and what our laws are in Florida. And when there's an election, a statewide election, we get the chance to amend the Constitution because, times change and people change. And so sometimes our Constitution needs updating. And so in this election on November 3rd, when you get your ballot, there are going to be 6 amendments to the Florida Constitution that we get to vote on. So just so you know, some general things about Florida elections. Floridians vote every 2 years for state elections. And Florida has term limits for governor and state legislators. And the Florida legislature meets for only 60 days. They meet typically in like the beginning of the year. So these are the people that we send up to Tallahassee to represent us. So Florida's Constitution, as I said, it establishes basic rules and rights for our citizens. And when we are voting to amend the Constitution, like we are this November, 60% of people who show up to vote, that's how much is required to pass the constitutional amendment. So not just like 60% of the population, but like whoever shows up to vote, 60% of those people have to vote yes in order for something to pass. So we're just going to go quick because there's 6 of these and we want to be short on time. And actually, Marisol is going to do amendments 1 through 3.
Yes, thank you again, Morgan. So amendment number one, and something to realize, just like Morgan said, that we need 60% of people that voted in this election for any of these to pass. So that's why it's so important that we cast our votes, because if not, only a few people are the ones that are going to be choosing any of these for us. So amendment number one is the citizen requirement to vote in Florida election. So in this one, the amendment currently says every citizen of the United States. Okay, so they want to change it to replace only. So right now it says every citizen of the United States. So they want to replace it with only a citizen of the United States can vote in the election. So this is just basically an unnecessary amendment, because we already have the statement as to every citizen, and this is just a way to change the Constitution to perhaps make it more difficult for people to change it. And usually we already know that you have to be a citizen, and the supporters say that is to avoid fraud, but there's very little fraud that has occurred in terms of people not being citizens and registering. So the League of Women Voters, we recommend a no on this amendment because it's unneeded. Next one. Then amendment number two is a great amendment, which we are championing and supporting, because it is for raising Florida's minimum wage. Right now, the current minimum wage is $8.56. So it would change it to increase steadily all the way to $15 per hour, all the way to 2026. So the first increase would be to $10 and incrementally. So if you vote yes, it would allow the state to increase the minimum wage, which is a good thing, especially for people can afford basic necessities, including housing, food, transportation. As we know, all of these things cost a lot of money, and workers are only getting paid $8.56 per hour. So if you vote no, it maintains it and keeps it the same. If you vote yes, you vote to increase the minimum wage from all the way to $15 per hour on 2026. Amendment number three is a very interesting one also. Amendment number three says that all voters vote in primary elections for state legislature, governor, and cabinet. So right now, the state of Florida is a closed primary state. So unless you are registered to one of the two current parties, you cannot vote for those officers. If you're no party affiliation, which when you register to vote, you can pick one of the if you want to register with a party. So this one would make it available for everybody to vote, including no party affiliation. So in the primaries. So the thing with this one though is that it creates a highest two vote getters will go to the general election. So if it's from the same party, then those two are the ones that go to the general election, or it can be from different parties. The league is not, well, the league supports open primaries because we want everybody to that is eligible to vote. This will create a really unfair system for minorities, specifically African Americans and Hispanics, to get the top two. And this is the issue with this one. We are recommending no on Amendment 3 because of that, because it would bleach, is what they're calling it, or dilute many districts that are traditionally African American, that have African American representation. And if others get in, then the people wouldn't have the appropriate representation of people from their community. Any question on any of these three before we move along? Okay, Morgan, so then you are next. You're muted, Morgan.
Okay, whew. All right, I'm back on. Okay, great. So now we're moving on. There's 3 more amendments, and then guess what? There's 3 at the county level too. But right now we're just getting through the Florida state amendments. So this one, amendment number 4, is voter approval of constitutional amendments. So it requires all proposed changes, amendments, to the Florida Constitution to be approved by the voters in 2 elections instead of 1 in order to take effect. And it applies the current 60% voter approval for passage requirement to both elections. So this one, the League of Women Voters is opposing as well because it greatly increases the difficulty for voters to amend Florida's constitution via direct democracy. So right now, one of the ways that you can amend the Constitution is by citizen initiative. So like you're a citizen, you have an idea, you're like, I want to change the Florida Constitution in whatever way, I have an idea, right? And you go and you get a bunch of signatures. It's like a bunch, like tens of thousands, but it's possible. It's been done. So you go and you get a bunch of signatures, and then you submit it, and it becomes a constitutional ballot amendment, and people can vote on it, right? So and that's already a difficult process, a long and difficult process. But now what this amendment would do is it's saying we now would have to put that on the ballot in 2 elections instead of just 1 for it to get passed, which would be super confusing because people go to the polls and they vote on the constitutional amendment, maybe it passes, right? And then they have to vote on it again, and it shows up on their ballot again, and they're like, I already voted on this. Do I need to vote on it again? Didn't I vote the first time? It just makes it super confusing. And I really can't think of a good reason for it. So the League of Women Voters is opposing amendment number 4. Amendment number 5 is about taxes. And anytime there's anything about taxes, I just like check out, but it is super important. So this one is a limitation on homestead exemption. So if you're a homeowner, or if you're a property owner, there is a tax benefit or a tax reduction. And Marisol, you can correct me on this if I'm speaking about it improperly. But basically what happens is that if you're a homeowner, there's certain tax discounts that you can get. And so for this one, it says that it extends the period for transferring Save Our Homes benefits from 2 years to 3 years. It addresses the reduced, wow, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what SOH means.
Save our homes. Save our homes.
It's in the bullet before. Wow. Oh my gosh. That was embarrassing, y'all. But okay, moving on. It addresses the reduced Save Our Homes affordability window resulting from late year home sales and reduces property tax revenue available for school to non-school services. So basically, this just extends a tax benefit for homeowners from 2 years to 3 years. The League of Women Voters actually is opposing this amendment purely because, not because we're for it or against it, but purely because the League just doesn't believe that tax policy should be legislated through constitutional amendments, because the Constitution, it's, as you can see, it's very hard to get changes in there, and we think that tax policy should be more flexible with the times. And the Amendment 6, this is the last one for the state. This is about taxes as well. So this is a tax discount for spouses of deceased veterans who had permanent combat-related disability. So what this does is it allows an existing property tax discount to a surviving spouse of a deceased, permanently injured combat veteran. And the benefit is effective until the spouse remarries or sells the property. So this also reduces property tax revenue available for school and non-school services and limits local government control over budget. So this is really kind of complicated as well because it gets into tax policy. But basically, if you own property, it just reduces It just gives you a tax discount for that. But what we know is that when we reduce taxes, that means, taxes are pretty much like one of the ways that we fund our government and our government services. So you always have to think about it in both ways. Like when we reduce people's taxes, that means we're also reducing the amount of money that's available for our public goods and services. So once again, the league is opposing this, not because we don't think that people should get tax discounts, but just because we think that taxes shouldn't be in the Florida Constitution. We can make laws about it, but it just shouldn't be in the Constitution. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it over to Marisol to talk about our Miami-Dade County charter amendments.
Great, thank you, Morgan. And you did amazing with the taxes. That was really good. So just like we're amending the Florida Constitution, Miami-Dade County is guided by a charter, which is like the Constitution for Miami-Dade County residents. So this year we have 3 referendums, or what they're called. And number 1 is really good because it establishes an independent inspector general. So the inspector general is the one that oversees county officers and county employees and all kinds of different lawmakers for them to behave properly. If you have a complaint that you think that they're not doing something ethical, you can report them there. So this one would establish, so currently we have an inspector general, but it's under the purview of the mayor and the commissioners. This one will make an independent office of it so they can self-guide instead of having to be under the people that they could be actually investigating. So the League of Women Voters of Miami-Dade were recommending yes on this one because it was really good. And because one of the things that the League does, we believe in good governance. And this would help us out in Miami-Dade County. Referendum number 2 is, so it says to fill the mayoral or commission vacancies during primary or general elections, not during a special election. So right now, if for example, we have 2 commissioners that are running to be mayor of Miami-Dade County. Well, this one would say if when they step down, that they would put the next person that needs to fill the vacancy, it would be put in the primary or the general election instead of having to do it in a special election, because then that costs taxpayers even more money that they already have to pay. So we believe that this is a very good referendum, and we recommend voting yes on it. And then referendum number 3, it's so currently the office of the mayor, the commissioners, the property appraiser, the supervisor, and the clerk of courts are nonpartisan posts. But in 2018, when we voted, people chose to amend the Constitution one more time with Amendment 10, it was called, that created these 5 offices independent of the county. And in doing so, they also made the offices partisan. So next time in 2024, when people run for these offices, they will have to say either Democrats or Republican or another party. So this Miami-Dade County Charter, the commissioners and the mayor, they are trying to make it nonpartisan again. We didn't take a position on this one because it is doubtful, because the Florida Constitution supersedes the charter, the Miami-Dade County Charter. So we don't think that this is actually going to work. So those are the 3 referendums that will be on your ballot, on everyone's ballot this November.
Awesome. Thanks, Marisol. So we're almost done, you all. The last thing we're going to talk about before we get to the question and answer is something I touched on earlier, which is just protecting your right to vote. So, whether you're voting by mail or early voting or voting on election day, elections, we should have free and fair elections, and we hope that we do, but sometimes inevitably we know issues come up. And so If any issues come up, this is a hotline that you can call. It's 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And there's different languages. If you are a Spanish speaker or if you speak, I think there actually should be one for Haitian Creole as well. I'm not seeing it on this line, but if you are having any issues voting, you feel like your right to vote is being infringed, you can call this hotline and someone will walk you through the process of what to do in that situation. And lastly, I know that Marisol and myself have presented so much information in this presentation. And if you did not write it all down, that's okay. Because guess what? It's online. It's on vote411.org. All you have to do is type vote411.org. And then you can put in your address where you live. And what it will show you is a sample ballot. And you'll be able to see everything that we talked about. Who's running, who's representing you, and then what the ballots, what the constitutional amendments are going to be. You can see all of that on Vote 411, and you know, just remain educated and informed about it. And okay, all right, I'm going to stop my screen share because that is it for us, and we are open for questions. And I think actually we had a question that I would love for Marisol to answer, because I know you did so much work on Amendment 4 in 2018, which is different from Amendment number 4 in 2020. So Amendment 4 is granting returning citizens the right to vote. So Marisol, the question that we had is, how do previously incarcerated citizens get their right to vote back? Because I know there's been so much like back and forth about that. Is there a place that offers clemency, especially after Michael Bloomberg paid the fines of 32,000 felons in Florida? Marisol, can you just give us an update on what is going on with returning citizens?
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you so much for that question, because it is such an important issue. And this one was, just like you said, one of the amendments that we passed in November 2018. However, so it grants returning citizens, people that have committed felonies, once they've completed all the terms of their sentence, the right to vote. However, it was over 64% of people in the state of Florida that voted in favor of it. But when the legislature came on in January, it was that year, they changed it, that they made it say that completed terms of the sentence, of their sentences included the fines and fees. That was not the intention of all the voters. And I was like one of the petitions I did a lot of petitioning for it. And so then it's changed. So then the Legal Women Voters, Common Cause, Florida ACLU, and so many other organizations challenged that in court. And a judge found that it was unfair and that it was still disenfranchising these returning citizens, and that it was an attempt by the Florida legislature to infringe on voters. So then it went to the Court of Appeals, and right now it just went to the 11th Circuit Court, and they upheld the lower decision that they should pay the fines and fees. So we have so many organizations, the League of Women Voters amongst them, and the Florida Restoration Rights Coalition, and so many people. The public defender is also helping out people to find out if they still have outstanding fines and fees. And they are doing this thing called Rocket Docket and trying to get it and overturned into civil citations in order, because a lot of people can't pay it. This can be from hundreds to thousands of dollars. And as we know, because they are returning felons, they have a hard time having good jobs and to pay this. On top of that, there's not one system or one place where everybody can find out where if they owe anything. So it's a really, really unfair and discriminatory practice. And that's why Michael Bloomberg and all these other organizations are trying to get it done to see if these people can register now to vote in the November election. However, we only have, like 8 days before October 5th. And that was what specifically Judge Hinkle said that the Florida legislature was trying to do, avoid people from voting in these elections. So it would probably, it's going to continue. And the League of Women Voters and the other organizations, they're looking into, because it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court in order for them to decide.
So Marisol, thank you so much for that explanation. It's been hard even for me to follow like all the back and forth. But so if I have a friend or a family member who is a returning citizen and they don't know, like, because it can be even complicated to know whether you have paid all your fines and fees. Should they just like fill out a voter registration form and then wait to see if it's accepted or rejected? Or can you even like get in trouble for trying to register to vote?
Well, so that's the first thing. If you are not sure, you should not register.
Okay.
Because it is a felony to register when you have a felony in your record. So unless you are absolutely positive that that your fines and fees have been paid, you should not register.
Okay.
Definitely. That's a serious crime.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Thank you for clarifying that. And I think that's
Morgan, I'm sorry. So like before this final decision, which came in about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, they were able to register because they allowed them to register because you didn't know. But now that the decision has been made, people should not register if they know that they've had a felony.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Well, if they've had a felony and they haven't completed all their terms, because there's a lot of people that have already done it. So those people should definitely register to vote.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you so much, Marisol. Yeah, it's not the answer that I know that we wanted, but for right now, it is the answer that we have. So there was another quick question in the chat I wanted to address. Someone had asked, if you are mailing in your ballot, should you mail it in 2 envelopes? So pretty much if you request a mail-in ballot, it comes like a packet, like you open it and then there's like more stuff in there, which is the ballot itself and the return envelope. So what you do is you just discard the envelope that it came in. You don't need that anymore. But then there's the return envelope, which has the prepaid postage and it has the address already filled out. So you don't need to fill out anything on that second return envelope. And you also don't need an additional envelope. All you need to do is fill out your ballot and then put it in the envelope that they gave you, the one that was inside, the big one, and then make sure you sign it and date it on the back of your envelope. That's the only thing you need to do on the return envelope, is make sure you sign it and date it on the back, remembering the signature that you use on your voter registration card.
Morgan, also, within that same packet that they send, there's that sleeve, remember? They need to put it inside that, yes. So they need to put it in there and then in the envelope. And then also after making sure that you sign your mail and ballot, remember that you can track it. So after that, you can go online on the supervisor of election website and see that they received it and then that it was counted and it has no problem. So you can make sure that your vote was counted.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And there's an additional question.
Oh, absolutely.
It says from Kenya Hanfield, do you think that because Florida is a swing state, gerrymandering will occur in this election to win the Electoral College?
Marisol?
So right now, they can't do anything about gerrymandering. After the census is, which by the way, if you haven't filled out your census and your family, please fill it out as soon as possible. After that, there's going to be redistricting and gerrymandering, which both parties do it all the time. So, but not for this November election. That's or those the districts have already.
Yeah, I mean, gerrymandering is definitely an issue. The thing is, like, it has already happened. The districts are already set. And, ooh, yes, let's talk about what is gerrymandering. Okay, Marisol, do you want to take that one too? Because, like, I know what it is, but I don't think I can accurately explain it in a simple way. Or any of our other panelists, please feel free to jump in.
So gerrymandering is the way that so if you were to look, if you were anybody was to pull up the districts, is like they have all kinds of weird shapes. So instead of like drawing straight lines, either going one way or the other one and breaking it off like that, they make these really funky designs to capture X amount of voters that will benefit their parties. Because when we are voting, we vote according to the districts that we're in. So they want to make sure, that there's X amount of voters that are white, that are African American, that are Hispanics, but that will favor them and their district so they can win a district, that are Republicans or that are Democrats, so they can fill up in that way, and then they will continue winning elections for their districts. Is that clear now, Morgan? Kind of?
I hope so. Yeah, and I just want to say, like, it doesn't have to be that way. Political parties do this to like gain and maintain power, but really the way that, and this is my opinion, the way that we break up different voting districts and different voting blocks, it really should just be on the population, not like who makes up the population, but to just evenly distribute how many votes are in each population, but not based on any other demographics. I think that's kind of like the original idea, but then, when you get people involved who want to maintain power, they obviously do some not great things to maintain that power, but gerrymandering is something that doesn't have to happen. There are more equitable ways to designate voting districts. So this is something that is bad, but we can work to, especially the population we're speaking to right now, this young generation, like you all are the ones who can really take up this cause and say, like, I'm going to figure out exactly what gerrymandering is and see how it's affecting my community, and then start a movement to fix it.
We have two more questions.
As well, but
we have two more questions.
Oh, cool.
All right, one from Kay Williams Dawson. If fees have been converted to a civil citation, is the returning citizen then eligible to vote?
Yes, because as a civil citation, it's not the same. And yes, they are able to vote once. And that's what the whole thing is, trying to get them converted to civil citations so to allow these voters to vote.
And the last question is from Mia Hanfield. Is it possible that you can clarify some of the stigmas of filling out the census? Who can fill it out and when is it due?
Yes. Morgan, you want me to take it or? Yes. You want to? Sure. Okay, so actually, the census is done every 10 years, and 2020 is that year. It started back in January, and it was supposed to, so you can self-report. The Census Bureau sent every household in the nation a questionnaire, basically. Or this year is the first time that they did it online. So they sent you a number that you can go online and fill it out as to the people living in your household. So who are the people that live in your household? Anybody that has spent, was living there, what they define as living there, all the way till April 1st, which was Census Day. It's also April Fool's Day, but okay. So every person in your household, it doesn't have to be like just your parents. It could be your grandma, your aunt and uncle, or a friend that maybe has been staying with you for over those 4 months. So it's a lot of different people. And just like the commercials say, the pets don't count. It just counts people. There is no citizenship question on it. It just pretty much asks you about 10 different questions, and it's really, really easy to fill out. So, like so many other things that have been happening, the census was supposed to, you self-report. You were supposed to have done this by June. Yes, by June. But then I got, because, and then after that, if you still didn't send it in, then they sent a census worker to knock on your doors and do the questions manually, or do it for your family, because the census tried to get an accurate and complete count of every person that lives in the United States. So if you're a college student, and you can fill it out in your campus. If you live off-site, those that are live in another state. Then the other thing with the census and why it's so important is because there's so much money. The money that the states receive from the federal government are based on population, and that money goes to roads, schools, so many hurricanes. So like even when we have hurricanes, the money that FEMA sends is based on those numbers. So we want everybody to be counted, because also redistricting comes from there. So and then we could get the representation for the state. So there's so much that goes along with filling out the census and the importance of the census. Right now, Miami-Dade is slightly behind the count, and so is Florida in general. So the other thing was everything was supposed to have ended by July, but because of COVID-19, it was extended to October, to the end of October. But then they tried to change it and say that it was going to be in a couple of days on September 30th, but now it's back to October. So yes, please, if you haven't done so, please fill out your census. Encourage your family and friends to do the same. It's very, very important for our community.
Awesome. Thanks, Marisol. And I also want to mention, I don't know if you touched on this, but the information that you give when you fill out the census is secure. So just like vote by mail is very safe, the census is very safe. And Marisol mentioned there's not a question about your citizenship. The census really is just about who is here, who is living right here, right now, so that everyone can get counted. And there are laws, there are very strict laws that govern what the information that you give on the census can be used for. And the law is that it basically can only be used for the census and no other reason. So it's not like, you know, when you are like using an app or you're on the internet and they're like, oh, we're tracking you with cookies. You don't have to press accept on that. The census is absolutely 100% like a lockdown secure. The information you submit for the census can only be used for that purpose and no other reason. So it should be very safe for you to fill out the census.
There's just one additional question, and I believe we'll be wrapping up. It comes from our president of Miami Alumnae. Is there anything being done to advertise and or promote those who were convicted but had their fines converted to civil citations or only have civil citations can vote?
Yeah, Marisol, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yes, there's there's so many organizations that we are really, really pushing to get every vote out, to get everybody to register to vote if they're able to, and if they're and because of Amendment 4 that they're eligible to vote. For example, the League of Women Voters are in our state. We are mailing out cards, reminder. And we have the specific number of people that are eligible or that have had the felonies, and mailing it out to them for them to be able to find out if they're registered and registered to vote. So is the ACLU, again, Common Cause, and New Florida Majority. So many organizations. We have a huge push to get every voter that is eligible to vote to vote.
Awesome. Thanks, Marisol.
No. Well, thank you so much, Marisol and Morgan, for presenting to us today. Let's give them a hand clap. It never fails. As soon as I get the mic, my son needs me. Let's give them a hand clap. Let me see your reactions on the screen. And you know what? Romeo, I'm busy. Give me a second. We have some good news. I am going to present to you our newest registered voter, Mr. Joseph Thomas. Let me spotlight him.
Awesome.
Hello, let me let him unmute himself.
Thank you, ladies of Delta, for this teen educational forum. I was able to find out that I can register at 16, and I was so glad for the opportunity, so I went right onto the internet. I did it, I printed it out, I gave it to my mom, and we're gonna go this week so I can get registered.
Oh,
Here it is right here.
nice.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.